There is no magic trick to overcoming fear. That's what your whole life is for, really. Your whole life is for facing yourself, for facing the universe. Remember, the universe is you. You fear you. Ultimately, you fear your own infinite scope. You are literally so awesome that you're scary. That's what consciousness is doing here. Consciousness is figuring out how to grapple with its own enormity. And the paradox is this. The paradox about fear is that your whole life you think that you're afraid of various bad parts of life because they're dangerous and scary and evil. But ultimately what you discover is the shocking truth is that what you really feared the whole time was not bad and evil stuff, but rather what you really feared is the realization that there is no such thing as bad or evil at all, and that all of it is infinite love. And what you really fear is dissolving into that love, because that love is so infinite and so indiscriminate that it leaves no room for your little limited ego and for your little petty attachments. And that's what you're really afraid of. You're not afraid of evil, you're afraid of love. Love is the scariest thing. Love is the most radical thing. That's the paradox of all this. This topic of fear is central to your life. You will come back to it again and again and again all throughout this work, all throughout your life at ever deeper levels. So avoiding this topic of fear, avoiding this work is really unwise. It will have disastrous results in your life. Why does avoidance of fear not work? Because in the end, the truth is that everything is one. Reality is singular. The universe is singular. You are the universe, and you cannot avoid yourself forever. That's why life happens as it happens. That's why you're always being pushed. And that's why you're always afraid, because you're being pushed to realize and explore more and more of yourself, but you're so big that it threatens you. It threatens your old limited self. You're being pushed to expand into infinity. See, but you're too afraid to expand too quickly. But the truth is that you're the whole thing. So you can't keep yourself bottled up forever in your little limited identity. Your limited identity will ultimately collapse. Whether you do it consciously or unconsciously, whether you do it in your 20s, in your 30s, or in your 70s and 80s when you're on your deathbed. In the end, your limited identity must collapse. And the truth of oneness must prevail. So this division that you made between yourself and others, this splitting of like, I'm over here, I'm one, and they're over there, that's number two, and number one is separate from number two. This sort of divisiveness, this is falsehood, this is illusion. This must ultimately come to an end. And what must prevail is total unity. And it's this total unity that you're terrified of, that you've labeled death. The surest way to fail at life is to allow yourself to be crippled by fear. And to not be bold, but to be meek. And to make choices that are run by fear. And to succumb to your own fears. That's the surest way to fail in your relationships, in your career, in your business, in your health, in your personal life. Life is all about exploration of yourself. When you're driving to some beautiful national park and you're looking at the trees and the mountains, what are you doing? You're not just exploring the earth. You're really exploring your own self. The entire earth is yourself. As you see different parts of yourself, you take it in. Sometimes it's something beautiful, sometimes it's something ugly and hideous, but all of it is you. And to take all that in requires, and here I'm delivering on the other thing I promised you in part one, which is the answer to the question of What is the most important quality you need to succeed in life? It's fearlessness. What you need is fearlessness. That's how you live the good life. If you said, rather than fearlessness, love or courage or consciousness, those are all synonymous with fearlessness. To be fearless is to be loving, is to be accepting of everything, is the same as having courage, is the same as having consciousness. Imagine what would happen in your relationships, in your business, in your career, with your finances, if you were fearless. Imagine if you were bold and courageous with your life decisions. If you had a strong vision that you said yes to every single morning. There you go. And why are you struggling in life? Why are not you receiving the kind of results that you want? It's because you're scared. It's because life is big, it's challenging, it's scary, it's overwhelming, it's so huge sometimes that you don't even know where to begin. You're overwhelmed in your relationship, you're overwhelmed with the prospect of starting a business, you're overwhelmed by the prospect of finding your life purpose, or you're overwhelmed by spiritual work. You're afraid of taking a psychedelic. You're afraid of meditation. You're afraid of this. You're afraid of that. You're afraid of going back to school. You're afraid of getting into this relationship. You're afraid of talking to that girl. You're afraid of confessing your feelings to that guy. You see the problem? Life needs to be lived bold. Now you might say, well, but Leo, if I live life bold, I might die. It might be dangerous and risky. Yes, that's life. Fearlessness doesn't really mean that you never experience the feeling of fear. Fearlessness means more so that you experience the fear, but you don't succumb to it. You don't let it despirit you. You don't let it change your decision. So like, for example, when I started my first business, I was scared to start it. It was risky. It was dangerous. And yet, despite that, I started it anyways. That's what counts as fearlessness. See? When you see some cute girl at the grocery store and you want to go talk to her, it's okay if you have fear, but you push yourself to go talk to her anyways. That's still fearlessness. What's true fearfulness is when you have that fear, but then you say, oh, well, then I shouldn't go talk to her at all. That's when you succumb to your fear. And in that situation, that's when your life starts to go downhill. So there you go. That's one of the keys to life.